Yeah, so let's jump into the chart here and see what we have. So we can see that there was this wedge pattern from the collapse of FTX, and then we went in a very, very quiet range. And one of the little notes that told us that there was going to be some volatility was that we saw volatility in Bitcoin. I think it got to the lowest it had ever gotten. And anytime you go into this sleep mode, there's this tendency to wake up with a bang. And we certainly saw it here. You could see the breakout occurred right there. And as soon as that happened, there was kind of this melt up or bear market rally. Now, the reason why I'm calling it a bear market rally is that until we take out key levels, this is just a run-of-the-mill rip your face off rally. And I know that sounds crazy to a lot of Bitcoiners and crypto people, but if you look at other markets, the S&P, the NASDAQ, even stocks like Tesla, a bounce of 25, 35, 45% in a bear market is actually a relatively common occurrence. So as of now, I think we've rallied about 30, 35% in Bitcoin off of the lows. At this point, we still haven't taken out the psychological level here, which was the FTX high. And you can see how price is stalled there, right? And we're even seeing a little bit of a pullback today, although we're off of the lows. But for me, at least, this is, as of now, it's a bear market rally. I have to treat it as such until we start taking out key levels such as this FTX high pivot.
Gareth, what would be some of the key points that you're watching in terms of triggers that would indicate for you, all right, we could see the downtrend come back, or we might see another level achieved? Is there anything you're watching closely right now on Bitcoin?
Yeah, so definitely that FTX high pivot, which is around 21,500. Psychologically, there was a lot of damage done. We know about all the news media, that the coverage that SBF had and the FTX collapse had. And I think on a psychological basis, if we can get price above and hold above that level, that then would then create kind of this confidence in Bitcoin, in cryptocurrency. Another thing that I'll be watching for is, honestly, I want to see where this regulation is coming in. I want to see when this is coming to fruition. If we get regulation and price doesn't dump out and make new lows, I would then say potentially the lows could be in. And the reason I say that is because as soon as we get that regulation, it should create forced transparency. And forced transparency then creates the ability for bigger money to start to take positions. And if we're still trading up here into that, I think the lows might be in. I still am in the camp, though. Let's be clear. I'm still in the bear market camp. I still think this is a run-of-your-mill bear market rally, and I still think we'll make new lows.
So we had Jeff Ross on yesterday, and he kind of alluded to this whole movement that he's been looking at, which is the liquidity aspect. Bleeding liquidity last quarter of last year, third quarter. Now we're starting to see some correction in liquidity. And his whole situation was that liquidity could be opening up. You look at that along with the Dixie, the dollar, starting to continue to stabilize on a downward trend here, which could indicate people are looking for an opportunity to start putting money into something. What is your thought on that approach right now?
So I think that's a valid approach. I mean, again, I don't think that alone has the ability to make sure that a low pivot is in. I still think there's overlying circumstances, like if you see the stock market collapse 25% in 2023, it's hard to imagine Bitcoin's not going to come back down and retest those lows. But for me, certainly, I mean, you start to see a weakening dollar, that helps. Gold price has really soared recently as well. That's telling you people are definitely looking for an alternative to US dollars. And in many ways, I think to stocks. I mean, I think there's this growing realization that the economy will go into recession in 2023. And what does that mean for earnings for stocks and the valuations as well? So I think, again, Bitcoin is the one that people are going to go to if they're going to choose a crypto. And I'm not surprised to see that accumulation going on.
Yeah.
While the markets have declined, historically, if we look at bear markets, this isn't that big of a decline. The S&P is not even down right now 20% from its all-time highs. And remember, the move from 2009 to these all-time highs, or from the COVID low to these all-time highs, was probably the biggest move we have almost ever seen in the stock market, at least reminiscent of the dot-com bubble move up in charts. So I do caution people that at least in the very least, you got to think we have to head down to that February 2020 high, which was just before that COVID collapse. In the very least, that kind of is the removal of the liquidity put in during COVID.
Yeah, man, that would be absolutely wipeout of some major wealth for sure, if that does occur. Some news in from WEF. This is, of course, XRP, Brad Garlinghouse jumping in saying, hey, we could see a lawsuit settlement finally in the first half of 2023. But I don't know. He's kind of been talking about this for a bit, so I'm still questioning XRP long term here as to whether or not we get a good result. As far as the chart right now, where does XRP stand for you?
Let's take a look here and see. So one of the things I've noticed about XRP is that we've seen a lot of big moves up in crypto, but XRP has not had a huge move considering some of the altcoin moves, right? I mean, if you look at a Solana, an Avalanche, even a Cardano has had a very significant percentage move up, while you're pretty much stuck at under 20% move up in XRP. Now, like you said, I think the reasoning for that is that there's a lack of buyers. They're waiting to see what the outcome of this judge's decision is, and they're not willing to put big money behind it, right? So I think that's kind of alluding to that aspect. But one of the things I'll be watching for is you have this pattern here, this little wedge pattern, and we're stuck between support and resistance, basically resistance being around 42 to 43 cents and support being around 34 cents. And so I'll be watching very closely to see can XRP in the next week or so break above. If you get a breakout going into the judge's decision, maybe it implies that there's someone that knows something, that it's going to be a positive decision, and that could be a positive signal there.
Yeah. This is going to be one to, I think, really keep a close eye on because we've been watching XRP so heavily. I want to get into Ethereum because Ethereum had some significant moves over the weekend. That was obviously tracing against what was happening with Bitcoin. Actually did a little bit better performance-wise. What are your thoughts when you look at ETH right now?
Yeah, so ETH has had a great move up. Same kind of issue though here as with Bitcoin, right? Here's your kind of pivot high just before the FTX kind of debacle occurred, and we see that big drop. And notice how price has gotten up there and is just having so much trouble getting through that level. So for me, I'll be watching this approximately $1,650 level, $1,650 on Ethereum. Again, I like the fact that it may be consolidating in a bullish manner, but it is still technically extended on the chart, and it still needs to kind of digest this move up before I get more confidence that it can break out. But again, I think one of the things to keep in mind, folks, is that, for me, it's the best of breed. So Ethereum and Bitcoin, if you're going to hold crypto into kind of maybe regulation or whatever it may be, those are the ones to do it with, because I do think they'll survive and thrive in a post-regulatory environment. The other ones I would just be generally cautious on. They're more for allocating the proper amount of investment so that if something does go wrong, such as an FTX or something else, you don't get hammered too badly.
So with Ethereum, do you feel like we see a 17 before we see a retracement back down to 14 right now, based on what you're seeing in the charts itself?
That's a really tough question. So again, right now, I honestly couldn't tell you. I don't know if they'll pop it up to touch that 17 level or pierce that 1650 before they bring it back in. We did see a little bit of selling today. There was, I think, a DOJ announcement about a crypto player out there, but it didn't turn out to be anything major for the crypto industry. So price has come back up, but I still think that we are short-term overbought. And I do worry that if the stock market, which is down pretty decently today, if we start seeing spillover where that market goes down more and more, I do think it bleeds into crypto and brings crypto in.
Yeah. Hey, Gareth, when you're looking at the charts, this is something that, we try to do here, especially around ETH and Bitcoin, the comparison. Typically, they're tracing fairly well closely in comparison to growth. What is an indicator for you if Bitcoin were to hit a 25K marker in some way through whether it's this bear market rally? Where do you feel ETH would kind of move at that point with just kind of the scenarios we've been watching, which has been pretty much a power play on ETH's behalf?
Yeah, so both are creating potential bull flags. Again, it's still tough to know because they're both extended. But if we were to get up a move on Bitcoin, let's say to 25,000, I would dare say that Ethereum would probably at least test 2,000 on the charts, maybe even slightly above 2,000. So again, that would be, by the way, if you get to the 2,000 level, that's your August 22 high pivot right above 2,000 on ETH. So that would probably be where I would be looking for it.
Yeah. Last chart I want to get from you, of course, is Solana. Now a little bit more exposure here on DCG and Genesis going into bankruptcy potentially. At the same time, we've also seen Solana make a major retracement here from its low around $8. What's your theory on this one?
So, I have a soft spot in my heart for Solana. I know a lot of people like to hate on it, but I do think the technology, it does warrant more attention. For me, I think, this is something I was asked about over the last month quite a bit going into the end of the year where it was trading down towards $8. And I kept on saying to people, it's like, listen, with the ability to do 50,000 transactions a second versus, whatever Ethereum can do, which is a lot less, there is a fundamental need for something like a Solana. But you have to realize that if you invest in it, you have to invest the proper amount, meaning that if you're buying it at $8 or $10, you have to say, hey, listen, I could lose $8 or $10 on this, but it could also 10x. And so there's a kind of a give and take in terms of how much you invest, where you say, okay, I'm willing to put 1 or 2% of my portfolio in this to take a shot, knowing that maybe I'll make 10 or 20 or 30% back on that 2%, but I could also lose that 2%. So it's a calculation there. But overall, I love the recovery here.